Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Good Podcasting, where we want to help you be successful as a new podcaster by providing a playbook for podcast beginners. If you're new here, my name's Brian. I'm the host of the show. I also run a YouTube channel called Summit City Studios, where coincidentally you can watch episodes of Good Podcasting. If you're not watching it now and you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, just know that you can continue to listen. We'll continue to publish our content there, but you can now also bump over to YouTube. Again, the channel is Summit City Studios, and watch these episodes of Good Podcasting that we're going to be filming throughout this year. Now, I'm really excited about this episode because it's one of the first episodes of 2024. So anytime we get into a new year, I get really excited about talking about kind of where we've been and where we're going. We did that a little bit in the last episode, so I'm not going to dive into that. If you missed it, go check it out. I'll tell you a little bit about the vision of what's happening here at Good Podcasting and on this channel, Summit City Studios, if you happen to be watching. But today, I really want to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing as 2023 came to a close and as we move into 2024, and why they're important to you as a new podcaster. Now, you've heard me say, if you've been a listener or viewer on this channel for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about the fact that I think we're just really scratching the surface of podcasting, and I think this could be the year that we really see podcasts explode, in a good way, not explode like blow up, they're gone, but explode in the sense that we really begin to see podcasts being leveraged in more ways, in more places, with more tools and more resources than we've ever seen before. So I'm really excited about this episode because we're going to get into some of those trends. Let's just jump into trend number 5. These are the top 5 trends that I see that we've seen across some of the research that I've done, the articles that I've read, the things that I've experienced, and the podcasters that I've talked to. These are the top 5 trends that I see as we move into 2024.
Number 5.
We're going to see an increase in podcasts with higher production value. That doesn't sound like a big surprise, possibly. But I think this is one of those things that excites me about the possibility of podcasting and where it can go. I think podcasting is now being seen as a legitimate source of entertainment. And as a legitimate source of entertainment, there's higher expectations of quality and of content. So we're going to see better storytellers. And I include that in the production value, better storytellers. We're going to see better audio quality and audio content as the story is being told, almost like you would see in a movie, like a movie score. It's going to be more maybe audiobookish. Now, if you're moving in that direction, I would say, I encourage you to be a good script writer. Begin to outline your episodes a little bit more than just sitting down in front of a microphone and talking to a camera, or without a camera, just talking into a microphone. Have a sense of where you're going with your story. If you want to jump on this wave of this increased production value in podcasts, be a better script writer, be a better outliner, do your research, have an engaging intro, an engaging outro. I guess that's all I really have to say about that. Let's be honest. There's more that we could dive into. Video quality, people are moving from 1080 to 4K and 4K to 8K. So just continue to think about how you might step up your content if you want to jump into this world of, professionalized entertainment quality podcasts. Let's move on from here, jump into trend number 4.
Number 4.
So trend number 4 that I see is an increase in highly niche content. Now, this could potentially be at odds with the first one that we talked about, the increased number of podcasts with higher production value, because I see more and more individuals getting into podcasting that don't have the production quality background, that don't have the production background, that don't have the editing, the means to create the great video quality, the high end professional audio sounding podcast, but they have something to say. People turn to podcasts for entertainment and education. Those are the two primary reasons we listen to podcasts, or we view content on YouTube, specifically podcast content on YouTube or wherever you happen to watch or listen to your podcast. Now, um, in these type of podcasts, these highly niche podcasts, this may be a place where you can get away with a little bit of lower production value because what you have to say is so valuable to the audience that you are connecting with. Now, there there's a balance you can find here, and what people call that edutainment. And so these are podcasts and video content that are highly educational, but they're also entertaining. And if you can find a way to marry the two of those, I think you'll have a better chance of succeeding as a podcaster in 2024. But don't rule out, don't try to be an entertainer if you're not an entertainer. Do what you know how to do. Start with what you have and start before you're ready, but start with something that you know you have to offer to the world because there's an audience that wants to hear it. Let's move on to trend number 3.
Number 3.
I think is going to be more ways to monetize. Initially, the best way and honestly, the only way to monetize your podcast content was through ad revenue, traditional ad revenue, where you would play an ad on your show and you would get some kickback from that. But that's based on the number of listeners and the number of times people actually hear that ad in your podcast. So then you had to wrestle with, do I put it pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll, which really was, do I want people to hear this ad before they hear me speak? Do I want people to hear this ad? I'll just place it at the end. So when people get to the end, they'll hear the ad. Or do I put it in the middle and kind of let it break up the flow of the content? And that's can be hard decisions. So traditional ad revenue has not been the best source of monetization. We've seen people jump on to things like Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, uh, you know, community building platforms like that where you can provide extra content. And I think that's going to continue to grow in 2024. I think there's a growing landscape of new monetization models, listener memberships. There's private podcasts now where you don't have to necessarily be on Patreon. I believe Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms have private podcasts where there's subscription membership. So you can do your regular content, your regular podcast. And once you build up a community of listeners, move into that paid membership or that paid subscription and provide extra content. This might be a good opportunity for me to share that I have a community on Buy Me a Coffee. I don't create a whole lot of extra content there, but if you would like to support what I'm doing here at Good Podcasting and on this channel, Summit City Studios, that's a great place to go. I'll drop a link right at the top of the description and the show notes if you're interested in supporting, if you found value in this content and you just want to give a little kickback and say thank you. I'd really appreciate that. So I'll put that Buy Me a Coffee link in the description.
Number 2.
So trend number 2, the personalization and interactivity of podcasting. Here's what I mean by that. Podcasts have been typically a one-way source of communication. I click on my phone and open my podcast app and I listen to a podcast. I hear someone speaking, I hear a couple people in dialogue, and I learn from that. And it's a one-way thing. Now, we've seen, as I mentioned, some of the interactivity with communities like Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and others like that, social media, email lists. There's ways that podcasters have begun to interact with their audience, and some have been doing it for years. So this isn't a new thing. But I think we're going to see an increased amount of personalized content and interactivity in podcasting. Things like live streams. Streamers have had the corner on this they've known this for years, right? Gamers, streamers, people that get on, do live shows and interact with people get typically much more engagement with their audience than, say, a podcaster like me who's just recording content like this and publishing it and interacting with people after the fact. More and more podcasters are trending towards live content, maybe not for all of their content, but for events here and there. Some are paid events, which again goes back to our trend number 3, which is more ways to monetize. Podcasters are doing live events, some in person, some just streamed events that if you are part of the community, you can pay to be part of this live stream event and have this personalized interaction with your audience. But it doesn't have to be live interaction as a stream or an in-person event. A lot of podcasters now are moving to things like polls and Q&A sessions and listener shout outs, things that get their listeners engaged and sometimes even hearing their voices on their podcast, which is something that we'll talk about later because we have a new segment on this show called Good Questions, where I'm taking listener questions, things that they've submitted to me in person, emailed to me, sent me on social media. But you're going to start hearing some voices of some podcasters who have sent in questions as audio recordings that, it's one of the things that I'm trying to do to be more interactive on this show with my content. So I can't emphasize it enough. Audience engagement is incredibly important for content creators, and podcasters are really maybe a little behind in this, but we're catching up, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this personalization and interactive content with podcasters here in the new year.
Number 1.
Now, the one that I think is the biggest one, trend number one, is what I'm calling the AI explosion. Every new podcast tool that's available currently or in production, things that we hear rumors of, it's in the works, it's coming soon, has AI options to help you along in your journey. Some of these AI tools are just suggestions. You said this, maybe say this. But some of these AI tools are creating thumbnails and images that are not perfect, but they're getting better just by the words that you type. So you describe an image, what you'd like it to show, and these AI tools will create the image for you. Again, not perfect, but AI is in its early stages, at least in the world of content creation. And I think we're going to see an explosion here in 2024. Now, let me caution you, it's not perfect. I already mentioned that. And an AI bot doesn't know its own bias. It thinks it's unbiased, thinks, artificially thinks, I don't know how to say that, but you know what I mean. It, it's, it doesn't know its own bias. So do your research. Don't just shrug off AI. It's a very useful tool, and some ways that I think we'll see it used in increasing measure in 2024. There's a growing role of AI in podcast transcription and captions. Services like Riverside that I use for video recording when I do remote interviews. Uh, they now offer a service where you can just upload a video. So I will upload this video that I'm not recording on Riverside. I will upload this video to Riverside. It will kick out a transcript almost instantaneously, a transcript that requires very little editing. It's getting much better of understanding my voice and my inflection and how I speak. So a transcript that is really helpful to post in show notes, to post as a blog, to increase accessibility for those who maybe can't see, that maybe can't hear, but they're interested in your content. They can read it on a screen. Ways to use your transcription that AI is providing transcription for you. Make use of it. Riverside also pull captions from that transcript. The auto-generated transcript, it auto-generates captions on your videos. It's all AI and it's beautiful, and I would say find ways to make use of it. That's a simple way. So I'll be real honest, I don't remember where I was in talking about AI. My camera shut off. I had some technical difficulties. I think I was about done. So my encouragement to you would be just to not be afraid of AI. I think we're going to see an increase in AI tools and AI resources and podcasters finding new and creative and authentic ways to use AI. So I would encourage you to lean into it, do your research, explore it. Don't use it blindly, but use it in ways that are helpful and authentic to your content and to who you are as a content creator, as a podcaster, and be creative. Lean into AI and figure out ways that it can serve your purposes for your podcast. So those are the top 5 trends I see in podcasting moving into 2024. I'd love to know what trends you have some questions about, or what other trends that you see that maybe aren't on my top 5 list. Let me know that in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, or hit me up on social media at Summit City Studios if you are listening to Good Podcasting on your favorite podcast platform. Now, I introduced a new segment of the show last week called Good Questions, so let's move into that right now. On today's segment, Good Questions, I have another question that was submitted at an in-person live podcast network event that I host at Sweetwater Sound here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So again, if you are in the area, we have people driving as far as Chicago to come to these things. I don't know why, but they do, and it's fun, and we have a good time talking podcasting. And this is one of the questions that an attendee submitted that night. And it's just this: what is one challenge you're facing right now as a podcaster? So, lots of ways I could answer that question. But to be honest, the biggest challenge I'm facing right now as a podcaster is consistency. Consistency is a big one. Now, we've recorded a couple episodes and we're posting episodes weekly now here in the new year. But as I wrapped up 2023, consistency was a challenge. I talked about that in the last episode, so I don't need to go too much into that. But just to say, you will struggle with consistency at some point along the way, unless this is your full-time gig. And if it's your full-time gig, then you found ways to monetize that we would love to learn from. But consistency is a struggle for every content creator that I've ever talked to and I have ever interacted with. And it's not a constant struggle, but it pops up when life gets hard, when changes happen, sometimes when you move houses, sometimes when your job changes, sometimes you just lose interest for a time. But consistency, like all of those things, came together for me, except moving houses. I changed jobs. I had kids go away to school. Lots of life changes. Again, talked about that in the last episode, but it caused me to scale back and to be less consistent in my content. So that's the biggest challenge I'm facing. What's the biggest challenge you are facing as a new podcaster or as a veteran podcaster? The challenges, I think, can be a little different there. So let me know in the comments or, again, on socials. Hit me up, Summit City Studios, leave me a message, and let me know a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your podcast, and the biggest challenge that you're facing right now as a podcaster. And that'll do it for this week's episode of Good Podcasting. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for tuning in on your favorite podcast platform or now here on YouTube. I'll see you in the next one.